All right, hello everyone. Thanks for being here. This is Global Culture for Global Teams. Really excited to be here moderating this session with this expert panel. I'm gonna go around the room quickly, let everybody introduce themselves, starting with Juana.
Hi everyone, very nice to meet you all. My name is Juana Manolaki. I'm the founder and CEO of SQL.io.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Gable.
Hi everyone, this is Teja. I'm the VP for Consumer Platforms at InMobi, an ad tech company. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Emmanuel, founder and CEO of Outsite.
Awesome, thanks to all of you. And let's start off with talking a little bit more about the state of remote and hybrid work. It's going to look very different, as we know, for organizations in different industries and at different scales. So to start off the conversation, if you had to pick 2 or 3 words to describe common challenges that leaders need to focus on as they think about what the state of globally distributed teams looks like and global culture, what would those words be?
I can start it off. I would like to start by saying that yes, there's challenges in building kind of this new remote world, but isn't it exciting to be part of this whole movement where all the organizations are trying to figure out how the future of work looks like for generations to come? We're literally writing the playbook together, which is incredible. Some words for challenges, I would say, is mostly around kind of organizational structure. How do you structure your team around different time zones? And then the second one, I would say, is around kind of looking at the performance that the team is putting in, and how do you track that in a remote world?
Completely agree. And really emphasize what you've said. I think for me, it would be collaboration. How do you create this collaboration and the connections when your team is distributed, when you hire globally, when you haven't seen a person, and we can take our company as an example. I have hired and never seen some of the people that are on my team for years in person. And how do you create this both professional connection, trust-based connections? I would say that would be my top challenge and excitement, I would say.
Thank you. I think personally speaking, there are 3 key elements, right, that I feel are most important. I think like Lisa said, trust is critical. Organizations and executives, they need to operate from a place of trust and not fear to be building, the right set of organizations and essentially inspiring passion. Transparency is a critical piece. As organizations go remote, as it becomes more distributed, it's very important for you to be extremely transparent, to the point of being radically transparent with what the company is doing. And the third element is diversity, because you will now end up getting more and more people with diverse perspective from different regions compared to what it was 2 years ago. So if you don't respect and value diversity inside your workplace and teams, it's going to be a big challenge building the right culture.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything that's been said already. For me, it would be like also how do you connect the team to the vision, and how do you have them a sense of belonging. I think it's much harder to do in front of a screen than when together in an office every day. So that's for us, it's really like the main challenge is to do that not only for the leadership team, but for everybody, even the part-time people, even the contractors. That's really the main challenge.
So all of you lead globally distributed teams. And I think that's, one of the challenges that we all face working for globally distributed teams is fostering that sense of connection, that sense of belonging when not everybody is together in one physical location at all times. So I was interested to know, just from your own perspectives, from your own standpoints, like how do you encourage building that sense of belonging, that sense of community with globally distributed teams?
Maybe I'll start.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, the onboarding process is very important. Not only having the HR or the person doing the hiring, talking to the new person, but having like one-to-ones interviews across the team, so that new person can really understand the culture, really making that new person understand the vision. So definitely that's one thing, and then another thing is definitely having the goals and the progress being shared and being visible to everyone. not only the leadership team. I mean, that's something we used to do. We'd only talk about numbers and goals within the leadership team, and the other team, I mean, the rest of the team was a little bit left apart. And I think like from 2 years ago, we started to share the goals, the progress, the numbers to everyone in the team. And now we actually share them every week on the Slack, and then we also share them like every month at the monthly town hall meetings. And so everybody's connected towards the same goals.
Yeah, I would actually like to build up on that. I think that for us was the most transformative thing. We live in ClickUp, and every single decision that we make, from all the goals, all the performance tracking, or the leadership notes that we're taking from our leadership get-together are all available in ClickUp for everyone to have access to. And we have weekly meetings where the entire team knows how we're performing every single week. And it's also, I feel like, there's a balance between meetings, asynchronous communication, and in-person collaboration as well. We're also empowering our leaders, as well as obviously us as we build a company, to just get together with their teams with a purpose in mind. I feel like get-togethers right now are a lot more intentional. You know exactly what you kind of want to get out of it, and have that collaboration of not necessarily getting together in like San Francisco where we're based, but like, go to Austin, go to New York, and really kind of build an experience for the team to get together, as well as, the meetings and some async communication on Slack.
So I think the collective spirit is quite critical, right? I mean, especially, for example, in my case, we have teams based in 4 odd cities here in the US, in Singapore, in Dubai, in Bangalore. It's very easy to get misaligned when you are, running the day-to-day business. So having goals being owned collectively, there was a time in a traditional workplace where you said, hey, everything is top-down. Not anymore. Everything has to be collective, right? Whether it's the passion, the vision, the outcomes, or the day-to-day execution, that ownership has to come, within the entire team. And once that happens, then it drives, a lot more cohesion. And that translates into the right outcomes. And that's pretty much what everyone is today challenged with, right? Like, execution is becoming a huge bottleneck because people just don't seem to get enough work done at a pace and velocity that used to happen previously when, they used to be around each other. So unless you have a distributed sense of ownership and the right set of incentives and motivation to drive the outcome, remote work will always be a dream, so to say.
So a few things there. One, in terms of onboarding. So like Juana, we also live in ClickUp. We even do the onboarding in ClickUp. So it's definitely part of it. I would say everything that you say should be documented. This is really one of the things that we see over and over again. And also creating processes when you have distributed teams is critical, right? Because things that have worked when you are sitting together might not work when you are time zones apart, continents apart. So I think creating processes to help would really helps us a lot. The second piece is also to make sure that you have social time to have fun, right? So we do bi-weekly social time with the entire four continents of team members that we have to really create this bonding beyond, those are my work goals, those are the things that we have to do, because at the bottom line, we're social creatures and we have to have this human connection in place. And lastly, I would say feedback loops. So what is working, what isn't working? Even for social time, we have feedback, or even for processes that we create. We see if people, I would say, try to hack or try to break, that means that something isn't working. So be very attentive and be open in saying, I don't know if this is working, help me make this better, and make your team, your employees feel that they can be heard.
Yeah, I want to rebound on that. The social time, and I think an important aspect also of building a culture is to have those team retreats. Every company does team retreat, but I think if you're a remote company or a hybrid company, it's even more important. It's not only doing one; it's doing 3 or 4. Ideally once per quarter. When you actually, you do some work, but also you build. You do some fun stuff, because that's also where you build this connection and that sense of belonging.
So in that previous session, Ronnie and Taylor had a really interesting conversation focused on compensation, benefits, something that's very important in a globally distributed team, globally distributed workforce. Everyone wants to know that they're taken care of, that they're well compensated. So, all of you are, working on running globally distributed teams. How do you take that approach of making sure that from, benefits, from a compensation standpoint, that, you are, in a position where you are able to, offer folks, quality, salaries and benefits no matter where they're based in the world?
Yeah, I can start. I spent the past 2 years being very good at understanding all kinds of compensations. Our team is in 9 different countries, different time zones, and every single country and every single state, we have like 10 different states as well, is different. It's been a lot of work to make sure that the compensation structure is correct. And I think it takes a lot of openness, and exactly like you said, Lisa, just kind of admitting that you need to learn and understand where everyone is coming from, rather than kind of blindly following certain structures that are out there, because I think everything's changing. We're very open with our compensation structure. So we make everyone at the same level, like let's say software engineering or like project management for a specific country, pretty much being at the same salary or like the same kind of compensation structure. And right now, Carta actually just released a very interesting feature where you can give people options on like what they like their compensation structure to look like the salary plus equity plus certain benefits, and they can choose what basically means the most to them. So we're following, first of all, the country market kind of standards. Then obviously we're looking at our company and following from a US-based company type of like equity and so on. But I think benefits have also shifted massively. Instead of spending a lot of money on like real estate and having, lunch and ping pong tables in the office, we prefer to actually build benefits around our people, and they can even choose their benefits. Obviously, healthcare and all of those things are included. I don't call them even benefits; they're like basic, basic things. But it's mostly around the ability to work remotely. So we give everyone WeWork passes if they'd like to work at the WeWork close by, or we give them different like fitness benefits or other things that basically fits with their lifestyle. And we prefer to spend more budget into that area rather than into kind of the traditional brick and mortar type of benefit.
From my perspective, and I'll give the example of US and India, right? I mean, I've spent a good part of the decade managing teams across US and India. And I still remember half a decade ago when I came here, the delta between what you would earn as an engineer in the US, for every, let's say, $100 that you would earn here, you would earn at best $15 in India. And it used to follow a cost arbitrage model, where the thought behind hiring more people elsewhere was to essentially neutralize your overall costs that you wanted to control at a workforce level. I think that model is gradually moving away from a cost arbitrage to a value arbitrage model, because now people are seeing that globally there are a lot of these talent clusters where there is equally good, equally powerful talent available. And honestly, that 6:1 arbitrage is possibly today only 2:1. And the reason for that is because of the contribution. So as long as you are building compensation structures and models that are based on value and not cost, you will always be building the right compensation models and also incentivizing the right set of people globally, to be building the right things for you as a company. So I feel this is the most critical part for organizations of all scale and size to follow if they wish to be successful and want to retain talent globally in the long run.
100% agree. I think for us also, we hire agnostic location, and it's based on talent, 100%. And granted, there are different benefits. Part of our offer and service is that we provide flexible workspaces. This is part of our service. So we're basically dogfooding our own product, right, and using it all across the world, which is really cool. So this is kind of a benefit and a test. So that's one aspect that we've seen. But second is also the fact that most employees are remote. So what they value is personal development. So for example, we buy courses, and if people want to go to conferences, and we want to make sure that we create these opportunities on what are your goals as an individual to grow it. And granted, we're small, and we will need to formalize that more. But at least for me, the way I see it, that the focus is really on the individual, and making sure that each employee is feeling valued in terms of what they see that the company wants to provide them.
I mean, like Lisa, I mean, we are a real estate travel company, so we also we're not a tech company with super high margins, so unfortunately we can really afford like really high salaries. But I think we have a really cool product, specifically designed for remote workers that want to travel the world. And so, one of the biggest benefits of what we offer to employees is the fact that they can use a location and stay there for as long as they want. And I think that's pretty unique, and that attracts a lot of people to work for us just for that. I also want to add that, like, again, I'm talking about from a remote standpoint because we're fully remote, that I think just having remote work as a perk doesn't work anymore. I mean, now it's just it's a necessity, and it's important, like, to actually give benefits, like you said, about the co-working, because if you just let your employee work from home every day, for some it can work, but for a lot of them, I mean, like me, like it can affect your mental health. So having them working from a co-working space, having them working from another city, having them working from, I've seen some companies that are basically buying villas for their employees to use. I think it's a super strong benefit.
So I want to go back to onboarding for a minute because, Juana, Lisa, you both mentioned that you're using ClickUp, and know that folks in the audience are using, a host of different project management solutions to help with that onboarding process. So what type of tangible progress have you seen using project management solutions make just in terms of helping to improve and streamline the onboarding process for globally distributed teams that you're running?
Tremendously, how we started and where we're now. So I think there is the fact that there is a hiring manager that they need to fill out all the details. It basically, you can create multiple workflows, right? So everything can trigger something else. So when a new hire joins, we know that we want to provide them a laptop. We want to give them a gift. We want to have them have all their credentials ready. And there is a really big emphasis on that, actually, because in my view, when you come for the first day and everything is working, it has a really big mental impact. So that's one. Also, when you start, it's hard. Like, you don't know everyone. So when we know the start date, we pre-schedule meetings with the team. We have basically the hiring manager needs to fill out in ClickUp, which everything is documented, and the actual, when the employee joins, they will follow through the detailed steps. It helps create structure in a new environment. And I think it really helps. We've done this multiple times, and we've also, again, if we're talking about feedback, after every onboarding, we ask the employee for feedback and reiterate again.
Yeah, I would double down on that exactly. We just onboarded 3 people from 3 different states and countries this week, so it's very fresh in my mind. ClickUp is perfect for that, and the way I approach onboarding is putting the same emphasis in onboarding someone new as it is to getting a new customer. That entire first-time experience with your company is exactly how a customer is experiencing your product for the first time, and understanding where is everyone, where everyone's located. So we have like something called a new employee handbook. We have everything in there, even like Slack channels, our vision, all the kind of company values, and even the Slack channels that you should use, do's and don'ts. Meeting everyone, the way you're using your co-working space, we're in live communication, so we built our own kind of technology to be like a virtual office where they can set up their own circle and meet everyone in there so that they feel that they're part of the team. And another big thing for us is also making them part of the company from very early on. I spend an hour with that person, no matter how busy I am. In the first week, I spend an hour with that person, literally telling them from the very early on how we started, what are the values, who's everyone from the team, how to work with me, how to manage up and how to manage down, depending if they're a manager, if they're an individual contributor, and really making sure that they feel like they can reach out to me or anyone in the team at any point. Because when you're coming new and also you're alone at home, so you're not in the office with your colleagues, you're alone at home, you're in your head thinking, maybe I shouldn't ask this question, everyone's so busy, you just started. So building that trust with the new employee and letting that person know that it's okay to bother people as you're getting onboarded and have all of that documented is super key. And actually it affects a lot the performance. At the beginning when we're still learning and we were not onboarding very well, obviously we were just figuring out, it would take quite a bit of time for people to get their feet wet and actually make an impact. Now, in a matter of like a week or two, it's already an integral part of the team, and that person is very, very much fully onboarded.
I think love the points here, by the way. 2/3 of our company were hired during the pandemic. And I think we have had that challenge of how to ensure that you disseminate the same culture that, the 1/3 of the workforce believes in, the value they cherish to the remainder of the workforce. And we've had our challenges. I think love some of the ideas that are being discussed here. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to the first 90 days being super critical, because that is what makes or breaks the perception of what employees carry, especially when they're in a remote setting. I mean, at least on our side, we do something like joining days, just to ensure that everyone who's joined in the last 1 month, they come together. Just like yourself, we ensure that no matter how busy we are, we have execs and leaders spending a certain amount of time with the new joinees, making them aware of, hey, what does our culture stand for? How do we work, right? How are we different from maybe the previous company that you came from? What's a good way to reach out to people? Is it to just catch hold of them on a Teams? Is it to go email them? Is it to literally knock on the door, right? So I think these are very obvious and implicit things if you are part of a company for a long time. But when you look at it from a new joinee perspective, these things just don't make sense, on the face of it. So you have to take those extra steps and measures to ensure that they know what it takes to be a part of this company.
So when I look on stage, I know that 3 out of 4 of your companies are fully remotely distributed at this point. I don't believe that InMobi is. Right, it's not.
It's not.
So my question for you is, obviously post-pandemic, if we want to call it that, we've seen quite a few companies that are asking employees either to return to work full-time or at least work on a hybrid model. But again, 3 out of your 4 companies are fully remote at this point. Do you anticipate that changing? Is the future of remote work here to stay for your respective organizations, or can you see a situation where you might ask folks at some point to either serve in an office like in a hybrid model or full time?
Yeah, so go ahead. Okay. Yeah, it's funny because we had that discussion pre-panel, and you were saying that many more and more companies are just bringing back their employees, and I don't really see that in our space. I know like big companies, tech companies, banks, you're calling the employees, but I think every day there's like thousands of new companies going fully remote, and I think there's going to be an adjustment. It's going on now. But I'm still very bullish on the remote work revolution. I mean, we've seen it because our customers are remote workers, and we're just seeing more and more demand. I think it's going to be interesting to see what's the new hybrid models. I mean, there's a lot of hybrid models now that companies are trying a bunch of different things. There's like the Amazon Google model where you can work a day a week from work. There's companies that like allow people to work like a week per month from home. There's companies that have no rules at all. There's a company like us that are fully remote. And so there's all those different models. And it's going to be interesting to see if there's a model that's going to be more prevalent than others.
I think for me, at least what we see, and we basically our product is to sell to help organizations to figure out hybrid, remote. But I think the common thread is actually flexibility. So this is what companies are trying to figure out, is how to provide flexibility to the employees wherever they are, whether this is to be fully remote or flex or any configurations of days or anything like that. I think that's the key here, right? And there are many, many models that are occurring. But the common thread is how to create the best environment for employees. And even for, just touching upon what Oana said, that treating your employees as customers, right? So what works for them best, how to make them happy customers of the company. I think that's the key here. And the companies that will emphasize on that, those are the companies that will prevail and retain the best talent.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's all about flexibility and kind of that that balance between their happiness, wherever they want to work. Do they want to work at home? Do they want to work at the co-working space near their home? Again, no one's going to commute an hour and a half every day anymore, regardless of how beautiful the office is. But for us specifically, we're not going to ask our employees to come back in the office. There's 9 different countries. It's going to be very hard to find a space for the office. But I do think that it matters. It depends on the industry. So I have some founders that are in more kind of they have physical products. So in that particular situation, people have to come back in the office because there are certain things that they need to do with the physical product. Another set of founders are the ones that have like larger companies, a lot more employees. So when you get to like 200, 300 or so employees, eventually you get to start building kind of some clusters in certain parts of the country, and you might not want to ask them to come back to work every day or even every week, but it's kind of, levitating around some of those hot spots. And then of course you have the giants of the Amazon and the Apples that that spent billions of dollars building their offices. So they kind of have to justify somehow building those spaces. But I do think that the future is hybrid, and hybrid doesn't mean necessarily, all in office and you're gonna tune them in, although obviously being in live communication, we see companies doing a lot of that where they can combine them with in-person as well as the ones that are not in person. And, it comes with another set of challenge of how do you make the people, the ones that are not in the office, feel like they're part of the culture. But it's mostly kind of finding ways of engaging with employees across the entire world, rather than saying, we're in San Francisco, if you want to come see us, come to San Francisco. It's more, how do you ensure that people in Europe, like we took our European team to a game in Barcelona, and that's great, although our office is in San Francisco. How do you ensure that all of these people are getting together in different locations, and there's some sort of like a hybrid mode going through? But I think we'll stay remote for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so the minority goes last. Obviously, there's a lot happening a block away from here, and that's setting some dangerous precedents. But maybe I'll share some opinions that are not so popular. So there is a very clear need to respect personalization of a workspace. And I think no one can deny that, right? The needs of a design team is different from the needs of an engineering team, is different from the needs of a sales or a marketing team. And I think that is a reality that every organization, every leader has to accept. Having said that, there are certain aspects of how an organization operates that cannot be done remotely. Something like ideation or brainstorming, a product launch. Like for example, 2 weeks back, we did a massive launch with one of our customers. Possibly went live on 10 million users. Now we just had to come together to ensure that launch was a success. Could we have done it remotely? Possibly yes. But then the whole excitement, right? The belongingness, the success, all of that celebration could have possibly been slightly diluted. So there is a need to plan for being around each other, maybe on specific events and occasions that are very critical to the success of a business. Annual planning, we're in the middle of an annual planning. You have to be together because there are some very critical decisions that you might have to take as a company, which means there are some very hard, conversations that you need to have. And maybe a lot of those conversations you cannot have if you are remote. Beyond this, I'm a big believer in hybrid. I don't think there is any world where you can be possibly fully in person or fully remote. There could be isolated cases where maybe a company can be fully remote, but beyond a point, especially as you look to scale and you achieve a certain scale as a company, there is a need for you to at least build certain in-person presence around your talent clusters. So it need not be people coming to the offices. It could also be offices going to where people are. That's essentially why my perspective on how organizations should look ahead.
Yeah, and I would add to that, I think it also depends on seniority of people as well, because people that are a little bit more senior management, they already have the discipline of understanding, how to prioritize their work and how to track their performance. Wherever they're more junior people that are still yet to learn about prioritization and time management, and sometimes they can feel a little bit isolated if they don't kind of buddy up with someone else or don't have that understanding. So I fully agree that there is so much value in coming in person, but I also think that this could happen in a way of like, let's spend a week together, let's spend 2 weeks together as as we're launching this project, or we're onboarding this group of people, or we're, leadership meeting, I'm bringing the entire leadership together next week, and still satisfy both kind of remote with kind of in-person interaction.
Yeah, I just want to add to that this is what we see. The biggest difference is, like you said, it's the office might come to the people in a sense, right? So when you have clusters of employees or you have project-based, you want to have the ability to bring people together. So it's more focused on a specific purpose, right? So people still have their work environment and their individual work can be at home. But for those project-based and big launches, I really believe that there is a crucial infrastructure that need to be put in place to enable those things.
Also, the scale of the company is critical, right? I mean, if you're a 5-people company trying to compete with, a giant out there, I mean, if those 5 people are all remote, it doesn't help, right? But if you have a product that's scaling well, it's a function of, how you can possibly execute on a go-to-market or scale the sales team. Yeah, possibly you can be remote to some extent.
So how did you launch during the pandemic then? During the pandemic, how did you do your launches?
So again, I think we essentially focused on building talent around specific regions, right? And again, we were lucky to possibly have, for example, some of our development teams, back in India. So a large part of the development happened out of there. And then, some of the go-to-market teams were based in region, here in the US, in Europe. So that allowed us to, at least in some cluster, come together. The go-to-market teams could come together, the engine teams could come together separately. So at least there was some element of, being together and, hey, celebrating the success.
Because for us, there was a big, pre and post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, whether it was investors or partners, they were a little bit like, oh, you guys have a fully remote, does that work, blah, blah. And I think the pandemic changed a lot of opinions around that, and it just became mainstream. It's not nobody thought that you can actually be productive and work well in a fully remote environment. Obviously, it doesn't suit everyone, but people know now it's possible. It's not weird or odd anymore.